So let's this panel, because the moderator had to apologize that he could not join this panel. We will start the panel more as a roundtable discussion. And Annika, why you don't just start with one?
With questions?
Okay. Oh, why not everyone short gives an introduction who he is and what they do first?
Sure, ladies first.
Sure. I'm here as a co-host and to jump into whatever topic, might need another set of questions, a set of younger eyes. So that's really what I'm here for. And I'm very much interested in climate change, equality, all the good things.
Great. Well, my name is Thomas Schumann. I'm originally from Frankfurt, Germany. I consider myself, I'm being considered a sustainability pioneer with an expertise for water security, specifically water security investments and financial products, per se, indices and ETFs. I'm originally from Frankfurt, Germany's financial capital. Frankfurt was also the 2015 world's most sustainable city, according to the Sustainability Cities Index. My MTP stands for Massive Transformative Purpose, is Agenda 2030, the United Nations Agenda 2030 that calls for transforming our world, specifically the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 6, which is water security, sustainable management of water, and 13, climate action. And I will speak more about that later.
Okay. I'm Baris Korotzikos. I'm a chemical engineer with a specialization in energy. My PhD is in energy. I'm the CEO of an Athens Stock Exchange listed management, energy and technology consultancy. It's a 30-year-old entity, and we're mainly working on energy transformation, Green Deal, and the climate change targets of our country and many other countries in Southeast Europe. And today I will talk about the cost of energy and water production, how this can be reduced and how it affects climate change targets.
Can't hear you. Carl.
Okay, thank you very much. I introduce myself again, as the panels sometimes are cut in shorter panels. I am Carl Selig, host of Digital Davos, and thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. We are also having a company, Chain Bilex, which is Cayman Island segregated portfolio company, where we have different funds which invest in clean energy and in different VC things. It's over 10 funds. Everyone invests in different kind of specialized ventures. Thank you, everyone, to join. And Annika, please start with the first question, and please go ahead like this.
Absolutely. I would like to actually get right into the midst of it and talk about water. We, in the beginning of Digital Davos, had a climate change discussion and heard a lot about how the oceans give us 80% of oxygen and how trees and the lands only give us 20%. Where do we need to be in 2030, not just investment-wise, but what needs to happen for us to keep our lungs of the planet actually breathing for us?
Annika, I would rephrase the question, where do we need to be now in 2022? I think it's very, very important to understand that climate is water, and that's where the narrative needs to be pivoted and corrected ASAP. The climate crisis is a water crisis. Climate expresses itself primarily through water. So we have droughts, floods, water stress, contamination, wildfires, freezes, changes in biodiversity, excessive precipitation. So water stress poses serious risks not only to society at large, but to business and investors. And leading back from the Digital Davos Forum to Davos and the World Economic Forum, the World Economic Forum established that in the last, I think it was the last 5 years, that 9 out of the 10 worst global risks are linked to water. That's very, very important to understand.
Well, on my side, I would like to talk about drinkable water and how precious it is and how energy consumption in the delivery of water to the clients of water companies is quite an important factor. So I can share our experience with a major water company in Southeastern Europe when we started with a case of reducing the energy cost of water delivery and water processing, because we found that the energy cost equaled almost to 14% of the water billing. Initially, we thought that this is just an energy conservation project, and then we moved to a net zero program, aiming to reducing the CO2 emissions of the water company and of the cycle of the water, which was quite important. So we moved from energy conservation to energy consumption from renewable sources developed for the water company, replacing energy from grid and from the majority of, which is coming mainly from thermal power, and even introducing new technologies, which is the subject of today, like water funds in the pipelines that bring the water from the mountains to the city, and many other initiatives. So finally, in a consumption of energy, let's say 2% for vehicles, 4% for the buildings of the water companies, and 94% for the cycle of water, we found out that we could reduce 20% the cost of the energy consumption for the water delivery, and 15% the CO2 emissions just by renewable energy introduction. So in totally, reducing the CO2 footprint of the water cycle by 35%. We decided to buy the rest of the 65 from green pools. So at the end, to have a net zero water utility. Now comes the issue of merging digital transformation with net zero transformation. In view of planning for the future for a billion investment program, the volatility of energy prices and the fast emerging new technologies like IoT, AI, big data are going in parallel so fast, and it's quite difficult today to plan investments in the water sector with a secure future horizon.
So your investment,
sorry?
Your investment in water futures are quite for drinkable water. And we have also our other panelist, which probably has other investment in water in mind. So
we're talking about the energy component of the water company. So the first initiative we took, which is linked also with the title of this event, is we merged the digital transformation the digital transformation PMU with the energy transformation PMU into one PMU for joining the transformation efforts.
I do have a follow-up question specifically on drinking water. So a lot of people worldwide think the water that comes out of their tap is drinkable, but we have PFTs worldwide as a chemical that is cancer-causing and incredibly acidic, and a lot of people live so close to these PFT-producing plants. It's everywhere. How do we need to educate on double osmosis filters? How can we get access to actual drinkable water into everyone's hands, especially third world communities?
Is that a question for me, Annika?
Sure, both of you, please go ahead.
Well, okay. Let me. I quickly want to go back to your initial question, because I think the answer wasn't clear that you asked in terms of comparing carbon with water, and Paris kind of led to that. So we're still talking about a net zero for carbon, but it's very, very important to understand there needs to be net zero for water as well, and that's a fairly new term. Also going back to initial question, humans can survive high carbon environments. Humans cannot survive having no access to water for 6 or 7 days. So this is really, really important to make. Then quickly, before I answer your question, to Paris, it's very, very important that we understand the energy side that Paris brings to the table, because at the moment, if we go back to the initial title of this panel, closing the gap between global water demand and supply with new technology economically, we need energy to close the gap. And the challenge at the moment with the technologies we have, the water technologies we have, which are predominantly desalination, turning wastewater into drinkable water, the energy cost is very, very high. So that needs to be brought down. So that's the energy factor. So that's why I think it's very important to understand when Paris comes from this side. In terms of the water decontamination, you could make the argument we have 2.7 billion people projected to live in water scarce areas by 2030. So what is the priority? That people have water, even if it's contaminated, or people have no water? So obviously, I think you would go for contaminated water versus having no water. But yes, it's right what you mentioned, the PFTs, specifically in the US, the lead in the water, overaging infrastructure, it's on average, it's 100 years old. People flush their medications and prescriptions into the toilets and sinks, and there's not even filtration systems yet set up, because the awareness is not there to filter out these contaminants and these toxins. It's a big, big challenge. Yes, I agree. But the whole water supply issue is really a Herculean challenge. Where do we start? Do we start in the developed nations, looking to improve the infrastructure, looking to make the water more safer, more cleaner? Or do we look really at the areas where people die and get sick every single day because they have no access to water, such as, for example, in Africa or India, where mothers walk on a daily basis 4 to 5 kilometers to get water, and that water comes actually from contaminated sources, because these sources are also being used for the defecation. So where do we start? That's the question. And that's why my focus is on UN SDG 6 calls for to ensure access to clean water and sanitation. Sanitation is very, very important, because if we don't tackle the sanitation problem, then we consistently have the contamination of the water sources.
Paris, something to add?
Well, for the developing world, the so-called developed world has already initiatives, either directly through their development agencies such as GIZ from Germany, or World Bank multinational agencies. So we see that if there is a focus from the development agencies in countries like Africa on the water issue. So I think the developed world has to help to overcome first the availability of water, and in parallel, the availability of good water quality. In OECD countries, the challenge is a little bit different. It's about having companies and utility companies that can develop and support procedures and processes with challenges that deliver the good water to the customer. So consolidation of small water companies is one of the solutions we found, especially in the less developed countries of OECD, where consolidation helps economies of scale, and economies of scale can help new investments for better water, for better quality control, for new technologies in the water cycle, for energy conservation, for renewables and all these things, while small water companies that we have seen, like in South Europe, in Western Balkans and so on, cannot really go up to the levels that bigger utility can offer to the customer. So we have two different, maybe more than two, different kind of challenges, depending on the level of development of each country.
If I may add to that, Carl, and to also answer your question, I think you asked me, how to invest in water. What's the best path forward? It's fairly, fairly simple. I mean, it's very complex, but it's fairly, fairly simple. All we have to do is we have to redirect 360 trillion. That's currently, according to the Visual Capitalist, that's a website. That's the global wealth, the global assets under management towards water security and climate action. To do that, we need to understand that we cannot live and businesses cannot thrive without water. So we need to have first the awareness and education. And then lastly, and importantly too, this requires investors, corporates, regulators, users of water, as well as consumers. And we're talking here about 7.8 billion stakeholders to elevate water security and climate action as the #1 premises going forward for this planet. I always say in panels where I participate, obviously I'm a little bit biased and prejudiced because I'm operating in that sphere, but climate action and water security are the single largest investment opportunity in the history of mankind.
This is really interesting. I know that, for example, in carbon, we had yesterday a lot of panels and they tried to tokenize like CO2 or give like trading platform for CO2 and basically put this on the balance sheets from the companies so that they are forced to consider this also as an asset or as an obligation. Are you aware of such initiatives regarding water so that basically not to pollute water, not to use so much water, can be used not only as a solution from regulators saying don't water your lawn because really it's not good. We live in LA in the desert, we don't have water, but that it becomes more benefit directly, which you can get out to it to behave right. Not only the punishment, but also the reward. Are you aware of projects which do something like this?
Well, there are currently some fairly innovative approaches to involving cryptocurrency and blockchain to advance water security. I think water.org has something in the pipeline. Charity Water, I think, just collaborated with an issuer of a coin to do something that direction, specifically to state a use case. I was invited to the London Stock Exchange Refinitive's Future Forum a few weeks ago, and it was very interesting. It was a private event with 50 people. We had a very small panel. One theme was digital, crypto. The other theme was ESG. But there was a challenge in the room to basically to bridge them. And I gave a question to the panel. With like 3 or 4 panelists that were speaking on crypto and digital currencies, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, so going forward, how does crypto, the digitization, tokenization really serve humanity and the planet? How is that new approach aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals? And there was silence in the room. So I have a little bit concerns that this whole new crypto and blockchain movement does still not figure in the fact that we only have one planet and that we need to transform, and we need to really look at the triple bottom line, people, planet, and profit. There is still a gap and there's still a lack of understanding. Going forward, I think if we understand and we utilize blockchain and crypto and coins, etc., to improve the planet, I think there's going to be unlimited, infinite opportunities, not only to create impact, but also profit.
I would like to add on the issue of making the customer and the users more sensitive about using water or about buying products that consume a lot of water. There is a long-lasting discussion within the European Commission the last 5 years about the issue of the water footprint. It was expected that at some point there will be a regulation that on the product, on the shelf of the supermarket, the water footprint should be mentioned. For 1 kilo of bean, 1 liter of water was consumed. For 1 kilo of beef, it's 1,000 liters of water.
Yeah.
This is very simple, and it's very easy to make the population and the consumer more sensitive. I mean, And this is more tangible than the CO2 footprint. CO2 footprint is quite a technical issue, and it's among the experts of the industry, of the corporations to understand about the CO2 footprint. Water footprint is something which is more tangible, and you can, the simple consumer, the housewife can understand it. But it seems that this is a discussion that is going on without an end, and we were expecting this regulation to be issued, but it never comes up, at least in Europe.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, again, for basically for crypto fund, not crypto funds, for funds, we have a lot of fund managers which come to us and say, we would actively like to invest in companies which do something with water because of the future, and we look for investment opportunities in water. Yeah. Let's face it, humans are greedy, no? Like so. It's clear we all need to conserve water to not, because we all don't want to die. But maybe it's also always good to reward and give people the opportunity and profit. So, and these two things is not exclusive.
I fully agree, Carl. And
what would you suggest now? What I tell my fund managers when they say, where can I do something to invest in water which can make me profit? And not hoarding it and saying, sell it in the desert when we run out of it. Where solutions to our problems where we should invest in and develop knowledge ahead.
Carl, I have to be very careful because I cannot give an investment financial advice here. And again, my mission here on disclaimer. And also my mission here is first and foremost to make people aware about water security. But since you asked me, my firm has developed the first family of indices, benchmark indices that look at public equities in the US, in Europe, and globally, how they manage their water. So we have a global US and Euro water security index, and we're launching the first ETF in collaboration with two large US financial institutions in Q2 out of Europe. So to answer your question, there are currently ETFs out there, and there's some mutual funds out there, and I can send you a list later, and they have currently combined, I think, roughly 30 billion assets under management. But these are all companies who only invest in the water industry. So in companies like water utility, water equipment, water recycling, et cetera, et cetera. But still, it's almost 30 billion in these funds. These funds are still growing.
Sorry. The question was more specific. What should the VC look when in the companies?
They should specifically look at if the company already has a water policy or water stewardship procedures in place. If the company doesn't have that in place, I would say stay away from this company. Because also if a company has a low water footprint, it has a low carbon footprint. There's an NGO, prominent NGO called CDP, the Carbon Disclosure Project out of Europe. They have a water A list. There are companies listed who are excellent water stewards. And there are companies in there which you would not think that they're good water stewards, such, for example, BMW, Unilever, and L'Oreal, for example. So these fund managers need to do their due diligence. How are these companies looking at water risk? Are they looking at water risk? Are they looking at carbon? Are they looking at ESG and other governance risks? And according to that, they should reconstruct and research their portfolios. And yes, a company who manages the water well, a good water steward is the better investee for the short, mid, and long term. So they have to do their homework.
On my side, we run an IoT VC on proof of concept, and I would give you some general technology directions for water-related technologies. Water management is not very far away from energy management. You manage a resource and you manage flow of resource. So technologies in Industry 4.0, technologies in AI, in smart network management, in SCADAs, in smart meters. There are many technologies, emerging technologies, where incorporating sensors, software, big data, AI, aiming at the better management of the water cycle, that I believe as the sensitivity about water consumption increases in parallel to energy, in energy, because it's a matter of hard cost, it's a little bit, the people are a little bit more sensitive on conservation. In water, I think it's coming up. And when we saw a big cycle of energy related technologies in smart grid management, in smart meters and whatever, around technological applications in energy, we will see the same type of applications in recycling and management in the water cycle too.
So there's a lot of opportunities, which I hear now from our two panelists, where investment managers can decide to invest in the right company and which has an efficient water policy to basically reduce the carbon footprint of water policy. And we know also with this, they are managed better and more efficient and will probably produce more profit. And we have a lot of solutions, technology company from conserving water, what you just brought up. And this is also necessary and good investment. Now it becomes a more direct question for the solution of recycling water, preparing water, spinning something out, using biochemistry, using bacteria used to purify water which eats plastic or something like this. Are you aware of research projects in this direction?
Yes, there are all kinds of research projects. There's also the latest theme is algae, to invest in algae farms, because they contribute to more oxygen in the oceans, which obviously, you know, the oceans are being squeezed for oxygen. So these are all in place, Carl. But here's the thing: we have Agenda 2030. We're already in 2022. We have 8 years. And the challenge I have, being in the global investment and finance space, it's all talk. It's all talk. We need to move to action now. The challenge with water technology is, and I think Paris can attest to that, once you come up with a new technology or innovation, it historically takes 12 years from innovation to commercialization. So there's a very, very long cycle. And the cycle is very long because if you deal with water, you're dealing with compliance, with regulatory environments, with utilities are very risk averse, with corporates are very risk averse. So the solutions are already all out there. They just need to be implemented, and capital needs to go into these solutions and into these companies. And I've been dealing with a lot of companies in the last 10 years, water technology companies, large desalination projects. All they need is capital to execute. So again, it goes back to redirecting the capital towards these solutions.
Thank you very much. This was really exciting. We are over time now, so I just want to give everyone 30 seconds to make a closing remark, please. Like
Paris?
Or Paris?
Yes. Actually, on my side, I would expect that the best examples and the benchmarks from the energy world will be transferred to the water world for increasing the effectiveness in the cycle of water.
I would say to 7.8 billion stakeholders, which includes obviously everybody, reduce, reuse, recycle. Doesn't cost anything. It's a little bit education, a little bit awareness, changing your habits, you know, behavioral change. That's really where it all starts. In terms of, the business and investment community, I would say anticipate today the risk of tomorrow. Water security and climate action in that sequence is the single largest challenge we're dealing with and the single largest investment opportunity.
Thank you very much. And thank you for making it easy as we had to jump in as moderator. You were great panels, and thank you very much. It was really informative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Annika. Thank you, Paris.
Thank you.
Appreciate the opportunity. Take care. Bye-bye.